Welcome to AS Marine Science section 5.1. Hi and welcome to this short video where I will go over section 5.1 in the AS Marine Science, and this is concerning the open ocean. We will be going over definition of oceans, we will be going over the different layers in the ocean, and we will be going over the ocean's role economically and as a carbon sink and in relation to global warming. Everything here is, as usual, non-profit and is made for my teaching at Radiometerskole, but if anyone want to use it, you're more than welcome. So the ocean is, without doubt, the largest ecosystem of our planet. More than 70% of the Earth is covered by this interconnected body of water, and together we call this the world ocean. And what's unique about an ecosystem like the ocean is, of course, that organisms can move kind of freely. Of course, there are borders within the ocean, and we'll talk about them later. But compared to other ecosystems, the amount of place for migration and movement is large. Generally, we divide the world ocean into 5 different oceans, based on size. The largest one being the Pacific Ocean. It's home to the deepest place on Earth, Mariana Trench, and is the world's largest ocean. The second largest ocean is the Atlantic Ocean, where we also find the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the very active volcanic part of the ocean. The third largest ocean is the Indian Ocean, and the boundaries of the Indian Ocean are difficult to define. Where, in fact, does it meet the Pacific? It's a little harder to tell. The southernmost waters of the world ocean are considered to be a part of the South Ocean, and currents and wind systems kind of separate that from the other oceans. And then we have the Arctic Ocean, located around the North Pole and connects to several seas. It's the smallest and shallowest of the ocean, and it's often covered mainly by ice. So in the ocean we have different layers, and those layers define where different organisms can live. For example, if you are a producer and you use sunlight, you of course need to be in the part of the ocean where light actually penetrates. So in the open ocean we don't have borders like reefs, islands, stuff like that. We mainly look at the borders at the different depths of the ocean. So in ideal conditions, sunlight could penetrate quite deep in the ocean, but we rarely have ideal conditions. So we rarely see enough sunlight for photosynthesis below 200 meters. And because of that, it's the first 200 meters we call the epipelagic zone. This is where we have the high production because we have all the algae is living. Just remind you that for algae to grow, we need 4 different things. We need water, we need carbon dioxide, we need light, and we need nutrients. And in the open ocean, it's mainly the last, the nutrients, who is the limiting factor. Of course, when we are in the Arctic and the Antarctic Ocean, sunlight can, for some part of the year, also be the limiting factor. Below the epipelagic zone, we have the mesopelagic zone. This is the twilight zone from 200 to 1000 meters. There's enough light here that organisms can see for hunting, but there's not enough light to perform photosynthesis. We also usually have a lower oxygen content here because we have respiration from the animals, but have no photosynthesis from the algae. Below it, we go into the dark zone. Here we have organisms who live on detritus, marine snow, that falls from the layers above. Organisms live here in complete darkness, and many of them are, because of that, either transparent or they make their own light, used for both mating and for hunting. Below we have the acidification zone, which is the deepest part normally of the ocean outside the trenches, and it's very dark and it's very cold. So animals who live down here usually live like slow and long, and they are quite affected by there's usually very little food here. Um, and then we have, of course, in the ocean trenches, we have the deepest part of the ocean, the deepest one being the Mariana Trench, but even down here we can find life. Now, energy for the deeper parts, of course, usually come from marine snow, but if we have regions with volcanic activity, we can also see hydrothermal vents, and there we have chemosynthetic bacteria providing the basis for another food chain. So we can have quite active food chains with primary producers in the deep, but only in areas of volcanic activity. The ocean is the world's largest ecosystem, and because of that, it's highly important for us humans for many reasons, for fishing, for transport, for tourism. But it also provides quite many ecosystem services for us humans that are important for us, and we'll get into them during the next part of the presentation here. But also, it's perhaps important to remember the ocean is important just because it is the ocean. And also not included here in the syllabus is also how much effect the ocean has on not just climate, but our weather. Rainstorms, high pressure, low pressure, monsoon, all that comes from the ocean. So understanding the role of the ocean here is also very important. So another important part of the role of the ocean is that the ocean acts as a carbon sink. A lot of the CO2 we release with burning of fossil fuels end up in the atmosphere, but luckily for us, and somehow troublesome for the ocean is very good at absorbing carbon dioxide. So if we didn't have the ocean, the CO2 content of our atmosphere would be way higher and global warming would hit way harder. So the ocean absorbs a lot of the CO2. Some of it gets absorbed marine organisms, and some of it gets absorbed as carbonic acid. The problem with this is this also leads to ocean acidification, so the pH of the ocean drops, which is a huge problem if you are, for example, let's say a coral reef, which is built of calcium carbonate, and because of that you kind of need a high pH. So the role of the ocean in helping to kind of lessen the impact of climate change is important, and therefore the health of the ocean is also very important for us to get a good outcome of our trouble with climate change. Another important role of the ocean is in creating the oxygen that we breathe. Often we talk about the rainforest as the lungs of the earth, and while the rainforest is important as an ecosystem and as an oxygen producer, approximately somewhere between 50 to 80%, depending on season, of the oxygen we breathe is produced in the ocean. So the role of photosynthesis, the role of algae, plants, macroalgae in the ocean are hugely important. And because of that, healthy oceans with a good primary production is very important for us as well. We kind of need oxygen, and the oceans provide it for us. So water has a very high heat capacity, and because of that, the oceans can absorb a lot of the heat that is heating up our atmosphere. If we didn't have the ocean, our atmosphere would heat up a lot faster. So like with CO2, the ocean is helping migrating or lessening the impact of climate change. This means that the oceans are also heating now, not as fast as the atmosphere, but they are heating. And this will have a profound impact on our ecosystems in the years to follow. Also, because of the high heat capacity, the world ocean might take a long time to heat up, but once they're warm, they'll stay warm for a long time. And this will lead to a lot of energy being in the world ocean. And it's believed that that's one of the things that can cause storms and hurricanes, so that can have an effect that way. So understanding how climate change heats up our ocean and what impact that will have on us is something that's very important to understand if we want to find good solutions for the future.